Now I'm talking about a monster where you maybe don't see it the whole time, like, but I don't know why that was. I don't know why.
Sharks are real though.
Yeah.
Not only did you give me one bad movie idea, I gave you two! You gave me two bad movies.
The reality is you hurt me in my soul. Right. You see the S over there? Right. The S means sadness. Because you hurt me. The reality is...
I think Suicide Squad is a good movie.
Let's
I enjoyed it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Plot Armor, the show where we fight hard but fight fair to answer stupid questions about the movies you love, hate, or have never even heard of. I'm your host, Vincent Potgieter. Let's meet today's contestants. To my very left, with a mind like the bat and a mic in his hand, he's the voice of the fans across fandom land. Give it up for Zaid Motala.
Hey, what's up, you guys? Oh, man, so excited to be here. So excited to be here. Watch out.
Oh, wow. I'm not fighting, hey, tell me.
I'm ready.
Can I just say, like, off camera, on camera, I told you, you're one of the first guests we ever wanted on from the conception of the show, so it's such a blessing to finally have you on. And what better place to have you than a lightly themed DC episode? I think it's only fitting.
Yes, rightly so. I just want to say, justice for the Flash.
It's the Flash couch, actually.
There we go, right? So we are here, and it's justice for the Flash, even though, we may not get a chance to fight today about these guys. But they deserve better.
Yeah.
That movie deserved better. But now, my man, thank you so much for having me here. And what you guys do is just spectacular. I'm so proud.
I appreciate it. And like I said, you're just a perfect fit. I mean, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're very, very involved in the Comic-Con scene, and that's our people. So tell us a bit about that.
Okay, so I think I am the quintessential fan. So I live like the best life in the sense that I get to be on both sides of the fence. So I get to enjoy all the fan experiences. But more than that, I get to do some of the behind the scenes stuff with the Comic-Con guys. I'm building a community of my own of like-minded collectors and just geeks. I think that we should make geekdom safe again. And that's my mission.
Yeah, I agree. That's actually a very good way to put it. Let's make we fight when we're here, not off camera. And then you'll see, his face, and you'll see him on the far end of the couch. From Krypton dreams to TARDIS doors, he's a YouTube hero with geeky lore. Give it up for Caleb Janssens. Caleb, you've got an interesting outfit on. Is it foreshadowing?
It is. I have no idea what you're talking about.
This whole thing?
This whole thing. I wear this all the time. I'm not going to talk about Superman at all today.
I will say, I'm not going to spoil anything, but Caleb's got some funky shenanigans going on today.
Yeah, it's either going to work or it's going to crash.
He's going to burn or win. It's going to be one.
It's going to be like a phoenix that will either rise from the ashes, or it's just a pile of ashes.
Or it's just a pigeon.
It's just a pigeon.
But he makes it look good.
No, he does. He does. I think honestly, he just slept in that and woke up like this.
So I
can neither confirm nor deny that. I can tell you, I didn't do my hair today. This is natural.
That's all good, man. Tell us, do we have anything else we want to plug for Plot Armor or other things related before we continue?
In regards to Plot Armor, something that was really, really cool recently, we were just at the 28 Years Later premiere. We covered that on our social media. But please do check out the Plot Armor social media. That's TikTok, that's the YouTube shorts that we produce, but it's also Instagram. On Instagram, we do a bunch of different things. So yes, we do our main episodes here on YouTube, but a lot of the more exciting stuff, the more immediate stuff, is actually found on other social media platforms. So definitely go check that out.
You mentioned that 28 Years Later premiere we went to. How did we go to that? How did that happen?
That is a great segue. So 28 Years Later is obviously sponsored by an amazing brand called Iconic Brands. We love them. They've done a lot of good stuff for us.
You've seen Michelle on the channel
You've
from
seen
Iconic
Michelle
Brands.
on the channel, and she is the owner of Iconic Brands, but they do a fantastic job of hosting fan screenings, of basically just allowing all of us who love movies to be able to experience the idea of what it's like to go to a premiere, even though we're not important enough to go to those red carpet premieres where all the celebrities are invited to.
Fake it till you make it. That's why we're sitting here. And we've saved the best for last.
I resent that.
It's okay. We'll be okay.
He's got the cure to your cinematic disease. If his opponents are sick, then he'll treat them with ease. Give it up for Cole Adams, aka the Movie Doctor. Cole, it's good to have you on.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I've been eyeing the show for a while now, and
Hell
I'm
yeah.
so super excited to be here.
Okay, so you can see I alluded to a lot of diseases and treating. You're the Movie Doctor. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so when me and my friend started the Movie Doctors page a few years ago, the idea was to kind of like cure people's like emotions with movies.
Hell yeah,
We can
I like
prescribe a movie for every occasion, for every feeling that you have. Since then, it's just been me running the page alone. So I am the sole Movie Doctor.
That's honestly, I really like that approach to doing it, like seeing movie as medicine. That's really cool. I really like that. So please, guys, go check him out. But before we get to a whole lot of talking about movies and how much we love and hate them, I believe we've got some special drinks here today.
Oh, do we have power-ups? Okay.
We have power-ups. Okay. And as you can see, you know them, you love them. It's Slayer. By Slayer. So this is a new flavor, Caleb tells me, which I'm very excited to try out. It's New Order from, I believe, the Hacker Fuel range. So we're going to hand out a few Slayers, pass them on that way, and then we can have some sips.
We'll crack open
give us the
cold one
energy,
with the bros.
so that none of you can say you don't have a reason to. Actually, I don't even need that. Because this is what I came for. Let's try that. Oh. I am wet now. I pulled a cajizo.
It's a family show, though.
It's a family show. Cheers.
Family show. That's salute.
Oh, there. I was going to do a dramatic pour there. I want to see how high I can get.
Damn. If I wasn't flipping out.
Don't make me laugh.
Yeah. It tastes like winning, which doesn't help if you're the host.
Yeah. Good luck.
That better not be foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Vintage, like the plot twist.
You can only win by drinking this out of its original can. So it's between you two. I can't wait to see which one of you two wins. Okay, so let's continue by quickly reading the rules of the show. The rules are simple. 3 contestants face off over 5 debate topics. Each round runs 10 minutes and the host awards a point to the most passionate debater, the one with the sharpest argument and fiercest rebuttal. After 5 rounds, the top 2 scorers enter the speed round showdown. 5 rapid-fire questions with just 20 seconds to argue and 15 seconds to rebut. The overall winner gets crowned main character of the episode, while the other gladiators fade into obscurity as the extras. Well then, I don't see a reason to wait any longer. I think we can continue and start with the show. So question 1. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's our first question. There have been more than a dozen actors who have donned the red cape as the Man of Steel. You might not believe me, but you're welcome to Google. But one must be champion. Which actor has portrayed Superman the best? Caleb, how can we but not start with you? And you can't say Caleb Jansen's, funny enough.
I'm shooketh. Okay, so my answer, genuinely, he's the reason I fell in love with Superman. And I, all jokes aside, really like Superman. Like, I think he is the greatest superhero in existence. And my love for Superman came from the portrayal of Christopher Reeve, who was just an absolutely perfect embodiment of the character. He portrays Clark Kent and Superman as 2 completely different characters, and he understood how to bring both characters to life. He had the strength and the stoicism of a Superman that knows how to protect people and what needs to be done, but he also plays the bumbling fool, the reflection of humanity in Clark Kent. And so I think across the board, every way you look at it, Christopher Reeves is the perfect Superman.
That's an awesome opening statement. Zaid, I want to hear from you next.
You know, he makes a compelling argument. He really does. But I see your Chris Reeve and I raise you Dean Cain. And here's why. So you mentioned that, you know, Superman, Christopher Reeves' Superman is Clark Kent. That's the bumbling version. He is take on humanity. Whereas in Dean Cain's version, this was after the Crisis comic arc, and Dean Cain basically brought a modern age Superman to us in the 90s. And his version of Clark Kent was very different. It was Clark Kent is the person and Superman is what he does. And I think that ties in better with Superman from my perspective, because Superman is something that we can aspire to. Anyone can do Superman. Whereas with Chris Reeve, the main personality is Kal-El, and he is playing Clark Kent. So it's almost a criticism of humanity. So the other thing over there was Dean Cain, right? For what was it, like 4 whole seasons? 4 whole seasons, you felt like, okay, the stakes are high over here. This is one episode, right? And through you, chairperson, right? The reality is, you actually felt that, okay, listen, this guy may not make it. I don't know how he's going to do it. So when you have a guy who's literally, a prestige on this godlike power, to give him real stakes, like human stakes that you can identify with, it's like, aware, massacant, aware. So Dean Cain, justice for Dean.
I love that. That's a great way to defend that argument. I really love that approach. And then finally, Cole, tell us your answer.
So my answer is Henry Cavill, and I know people may not agree with that, but hear me out. Zack Snyder created this whole DC universe with a darker tone, a darker theme, and Henry Cavill portrayed that Superman, which was created for that universe, in such a perfect way. I don't think, all due respect to Christopher Reeves, he is a legend. I think without him, we wouldn't have DC, the universe we have today. But Henry Cavill portrayed that Superman to perfection. It combined the darker tone with the lighter side of things, with Clark Kent's life. We saw his origin story in Man of Steel. And yeah, I just think Henry Cavill portrayed that Superman perfectly. He also embodied the kind of like, I would say, sex symbol he is in real life in the Superman he actually played. I mean, he drew a much larger crowd and a larger fan base because it was Henry Cavill playing. If it was someone else playing Superman, I don't think we would have had such a huge following for Man of Steel. So yeah, that's my answer.
Really like that? Fight it out.
Before anyone starts attacking anyone, Zaid. No, I'm joking.
Here we go.
I think we can all agree that across the board, I don't think there's ever been a bad portrayal of Superman. I mean, even if we go with Tom Welling in Smallville, he captured a lot of Clark Kent. He wasn't really necessarily Superman, but there's never been a bad Superman. Even Brandon Routh, maybe people don't like Superman Returns, but in Crisis of Infinite Earths, the crossover on CW was great. Yeah. We've never had a bad Superman. And I would say we've probably picked the 3 best. If I had to choose one of the 3, it would have been Dean Cain, Henry Cavill, or Christopher Reeve. I'm going to defend my opening statement straight away by talking to you, Zaid, because you did mention, okay, cool, well, Dean Cain was Clark Kent. And I think that's a great way of looking at it because it's true. But there was such a large focus on Clark Kent and not enough of a focus on Superman. The show was called Lois and Clark, because the focus was on their relationship and the character of Clark Kent. Superman is present, but he's in the background. You spoke about as well in regards to Superman being who Christopher Reeve was, and then you get Clark Kent, who's the reflection. Yes and no, because especially in the first Superman movie, for the first hour, you're just spending it with Clark Kent growing up. You get to realize who he is as a person as well. You have the younger version of Clark Kent becoming Christopher Reeve. And so you have this great portrayal of basically 3 different personas. You have Clark Kent finding out that he's Superman. Then you have him once he's become Superman. And then you have his disguise of Clark Kent. And all 3 of them are portrayed so incredibly differently. Whereas, as you say with Dean Cain, Clark Kent is everything. And then Superman is there occasionally. That would be my first defense. And you guys are allowed to fight me.
Yeah, I want to hear more from the rest of you.
You may need to hold me back on this one, right? Because I'm going to throw some kryptonite at this man's argument right now, right? So I see you, I hear you, but I must respectfully disagree, right? So here's why. So the baseline for your argument is that with Christopher Reeve's version of Superman, you see a lot of Superman, right? Is that the summary of it? Okay,
the summary
just help me
is
to understand that.
You get the best portrayal of all aspects of the character.
I see. Okay. So now here's the thing, the challenge with that, right? And you're one of my closest friends, so now I'm trying to do this in a way now that's not going to ruin our.
They are enemies. They are enemies.
Okay.
You guys are too respectful.
Okay. So here's the thing, bro. with Dean Cain's version of Superman, right, you had Superman almost as this mythical character, and when you experience the character Superman, right, you are experiencing it as the man on the street. So when Superman, the music goes ta 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 ta, right, Superman brings the thunder, does a thing, and he's off. But in that version of Superman, you also see what's going on with him. Whereas in the Christopher Reeve Superman thing, you just see Superman doing his thing. There's no actual insight into what is he actually doing. There's no stakes. Christopher Reeve Superman, and I love him, right? Chris Reeve, rest in peace, obviously. But that version of Superman in today's day and age, for the 70s, it was like, okay, cameratrix, lacquer, but you don't feel the stakes. Think about it, right? In the movies, when things are happening, he just goes, there's no thought process, how do I do this, what needs to happen, and how do we go, right? He does a thing and he is gone. With Dean Cain's one, you see him do that, you experience it from the fans, right, perspective, but then the things that he's worrying about, like, okay, how do I do this? I just feel it's much more human. And if Superman is supposed to be created as this aspirational thing, I think that the expression of Superman as, okay, here we go, that's what does it. Which takes me to Henry Cavill, right? I'm sorry, you're going to have to catch some strays.
Yeah.
Right? The challenge with Henry Cavill's one is, I feel like, beautiful as Henry Cavill is, and he really is, right? The challenge is that you don't feel that anything, that he cares. You don't feel that he cares. So there's a scene in BVS, right? And you know it, it's the courtroom scene.
100%.
Now he lands there, the whole world is against him. You get over there, and unfortunately, the suit just looks too tight. He looks as though he's constipated, you can't feel it. And he looks beautiful doing it, but hear me out. He goes in there, everyone around him gets blown up, and he literally stands and he's like, no, why massacre? It's like, okay, dude, you are literally, this is supposed to embody you being alone in this world, right? That, you know what, you mess this thing up, but I'm not feeling the emotional stakes. Whereas with Dean Cain, honestly, you just sometimes just literally wanted to hug yourself, because it's like, man, I really feel what this bra is going to. And that's why Dean Cain.
I want to hear more from Cole.
Yeah. So my answer to that is, firstly, Superman is not human, right? Human emotion is a very rare and unique thing. Not everyone feels that. Superman got to live most of his life pretending to be a human, but is he really one? No. He fought to save Earth, right, in Man of Steel. In that process of fighting to defend Earth, how many people were killed, how many cities were destroyed and lost, and in the process of that, he obviously realized that he was partly to be blamed for that, so he had a lot to deal with already, right? So in BVS, we see that courtroom scene. That's not his first rodeo where people have been killed and lost, which is, I would say, because of him. You could even say that. I mean, it's villains trying to get to him, but using innocents around him. So I think, like, we've already seen him deal with that in Man of Steel, and just to follow up on that, it's just another day at the office for him where he has to come to terms with that. He is probably the strongest being in the universe, strongest man on Earth, and everyone around him is always vulnerable when he has to, I would say, come to defend them, try and protect them. There's always that risk of the loved ones that he has, falling to his villains. So I think we've seen him deal with that already. For me, I get why people were questioning that scene. Why wasn't he more emotional? Why wasn't he even trying to save everyone before that bomb went off? But yeah, I just feel like we've seen him deal with those emotions between the two films already. He's quite aware that he is stronger than the rest.
Caleb, give us your final argument.
I've got 5 points.
Okay, make them quick.
I'll make them quick. Talking about the human nature of Superman and, maybe he doesn't have human emotions, completely destroys all of the themes expressed in the very first Man of Steel movie. Completely destroys anytime Jonathan Kent, whether it be with the Henry Cavill films, whether it be with Christopher Reeve's films, the whole point of his relationship with Jonathan Kent is shaping him to be human and experience human emotions. So to negate all of that does a huge disservice to Superman as a character and does a huge disservice to Jonathan Kent as a character. So that's my first point. You have to have humanity with Superman. That's the point of Superman. Moving on from that, you're talking about him being in the courthouse scene. This isn't his first rodeo. What does the S stand for?
Hope.
Stands for hope.
Well, in that context.
What does this S stand for? Look at my little Henry Cavill. The symbol stands for hope. when you watch Superman 4, Quest for Peace, and we will talk about that movie because it's not a good movie, but there is one scene that I love in that movie, which is a great juxtaposition to your Henry Cavill. Superman lands in the exact same situation. He's going to a courtroom. And when Superman Christopher Reeves, when he lands, all the kids come running up to him, and he walks with these kids to the courthouse, and he's holding their hands, and they're in awe, and he's excited to be with them. That is a man who's a role model to children that everyone can look up to, both kids, both adults. Everyone looks to Superman because he is their symbol of hope. With your Henry Cavill version, as much as I love Henry Cavill, everyone's booing him, and he doesn't look like he likes people anyway. And that was my biggest issue with the Zack Snyder films, is you don't get that he is a symbol for hope, and the fact that people should be finding hope in him. This is my final closing argument. I'm going to kind of summarize my 3 other points into one final point to basically punt Christopher Reeves and why I love him so much. You spoke about there not being any stakes. I just think that's a blatant lie, because what happens at the end of the first film? A giant nuclear missile goes off, and the entire eastern side of America is destroyed, and people are dying, and there's trains collapsing, and a damn wall opens up, and you're seeing Superman trying to save everyone, and he can't, and it results with Lois Lane dying. There are consequences to that. And yes, Superman has to then try to come up with a solution, and he does what he's going to do because he's Superman, but people do die. There are stakes to it. When you watch Superman give up his powers, I will wrap up now, sorry. In Superman 2, Christopher Reeves gives up his superpowers as Superman, and what's the first thing that happens? He tries to stand up for Lois Lane, and he gets his butt kicked. He gets beaten up. Blood is everywhere. That's consequences. There are consequences to Christopher Reeves, and they handle that in a very, very mature way.
Okay, Zaid, your final.
So what you were saying to me, right, is that they handle it in a mature way by flying backwards around the world, rewinding time so absolutely nothing happens. Zero consequence. And I love the movie. So what happens
talk about that in question 3.
Right, in context, right, here's the thing, right? I agree with you that you see Superman now doing the things. You know, he's stopping the missile, he's fixing up the damn wall, he's doing all of that stuff. And then after that there, right, what he does is, there's this Bucky who passes away, right? And then the first thing he does is, and he flies off, right?
Painful
and then
scream.
he goes up, and then he goes around the planet reversing everything. I'm like, brah, if you had done this 5 minutes ago, if this was in your repertoire, you could have done that, right? Zero consequences. In the second movie, he gives up his powers, right? And then what happens, right? He gets the mood knocked out of him. Are we allowed to say mood?
Yeah.
Okay, can you say mood, right? So
we're in the mood.
So the mood, you don't live in the mood. The mood lives here, right? So here's the thing, right? And then the second movie, what happens? He gets it knocked out of him, and then he gets his powers back, and then he knocks it out of them. And in the post-credit scene or somewhere, I don't know if it was a post-credit scene, but then he goes to the bar, and then he beats that guy up, and then he's like, you know, I've been lifting. That is antithetical to everything that you said about that Superman. Whereas with Dean Cain, and I want to qualify this, with the Dean Cain thing, you must remember it was a TV series, right? So there are limitations on budget and whatnot, but throughout the 4 seasons of it, you get to see, and I like the way you put a juxtaposition between the different characters, because Clark Kent and Superman are played as 2 different characters. You can see that over the lifespan of the show. And then you see, again, when we're talking about, I don't think I lied to you. I never lied to you, right? The reality is you hurt me in my soul. Right? You see the S over there? Right. The S means sadness. Because you hurt me. The reality is, when you look at it, right, it's episodic, right? So it's like Grey's Anatomy, but with tights. You go through this arc, right, and you see what happens at the end of it. There's a resolution, and that's just a limitation of the format. I genuinely believe if Christopher Reeves and even Henry Cavill had a TV series, I would probably be more likely to agree with you that we see a better on-screen representation of Superman. But for what it is and how it's done, Dean Cain, you go on that journey with him. You know, and that's why he is the best on-screen Superman, in my humble opinion.
Okay, and Cole, give us your final argument.
I'm coming for you, Caleb, just to finish you off. I think you've laid the foundation. Let's finish it off. Okay.
Team.
Nice. Okay, so you speak about stakes and hope. I think Man of Steel and BVS has the highest stakes of any Superman movie ever. We actually see elements of realism in that movie. I love Christopher Reeves, but because it was a 70s movie, and I would say it has a bit of a more playful vibe and tone, it's not real. Of course, Superman's not real, but if there was to be a Superman that was going to be real, I would go with Man of Steel, Henry Cavill. That is the most realistic depiction of Superman. I know it's not DC related, but if you look at The Boys, that is probably the most realistic depiction of superheroes and villains. And I think Man of Steel comes very close to that. And then we speak about hope. Look at that scene when Henry Cavill or Superman is walking amongst the crowd and they all bow down to him and praise him like some sort of god. I think everyone puts their hope in him in that moment, that he is going to be their savior, to protect them when villains or bad things happen. I don't think people would do that if they didn't believe in him and if they didn't put their hope in him. So I think, hope and stakes. I think Henry Cavill and Man of Steel covers those two topics brilliantly.
Awesome.
I wish I had one final rebuttal.
Time. So, damn, it's crazy because
I need a drink.
No, so it's cool to sit with a bunch of people who love Superman. I don't know how deeply you love Superman outside of this call, but I know these guys have a heart for it. I think he's also very bad. So the thing is, I think I'm a perfect judge for this argument because I think Superman is the dumbest hero of all time. And I think it gave me an opportunity to objectively listen to argument. The truth is, if the question was best all-around character or best Clark Kent, there's no way anyone but Zaid would have won. No chance. You painted such a good picture for why Dean Cain is a brilliant Clark Kent. So upon having to really decipher what's the best answer here, because you guys brought such good points, I had to go look at that question carefully, and the question was, who portrayed Superman the best? And I think for that reason, the best picture painted for Superman just why it didn't come from a Dean Cain perspective. Although, of the three, I'm the most interested in watching what you've put out. So you've gained a curious ear, if anything else.
Like, share, subscribe,
I think, Cole, Henry Cavill's a difficult one to fight, and I think you knew that going in. What was very interesting to me is you set up your argument so well when you said there's this universe that exists. He fits into this universe so well. This is what Superman would be in a universe like this. And you also brilliantly rebutted the hope argument. The problem is just something that's inescapable, because that's the fact of the Henry Cavill Superman, is there is that light, almost playful element that's required in a Superman character that just doesn't exist with Henry Cavill. And I think the fact that there wasn't a point to defend that, I think also, Zaid knocked you down beautifully with explaining the courtroom scene. I mean, like I said, tough one to follow, but Caleb has a deep love for Superman.
So much.
And I think it came through in this question. And I think he painted a beautiful picture as to how you got the point when you elaborated on the courtroom scene in the fourth movie, I believe. And it painted a beautiful picture for Christopher Reeves. You also did a very good job of explaining how in every property he portrayed Superman well. You are right in criticizing his movies. The question was never about the movies, though. It was very much about the Superman. So for that, Caleb, you get the point. But it's not like it was an easy one.
I've never been more stressed about a question before.
Yeah, okay, if you can't tell by his outfit. Okay, that was fun. Let's go into question 2. Now, there are a million subjective takes on what makes a movie important. In fact, how you interpret this idea might define how the very people you love see you for the rest of your life. So answer very carefully when we ask you, what is the most important movie of all time? And this time, we'll start with Zaid.
The Matrix. The Matrix, right? So, purely because I think of where we are as a society. When The Matrix came out in, 98, people looked at it purely as, okay, it's this action spectacle, right? But then when you actually, and most people walked out of the cinema, if I remember correctly, being like, okay, what was going on over here? Yeah. They just didn't they didn't understand, wasn't registering. But now, as time has gone by, the themes explored in The Matrix, about identity, about, personal stewardship, having ownership of yourself, all of this has come into such sharp focus. And I think that movie actually started a lot of people down their journey of questioning, of asking the bigger questions. Like, do we exist? Do we live? How do we live? How do we exist? So purely from balancing entertainment and education, and growth, for me, that movie, that was the one. And memes. Memes.
Great opening argument. Cole, you give us your answer.
I'm going to make it simple for you guys. Don't even bother answering. It's The Godfather. That's the only and right answer.
Look at what they've done to my boy.
It's quite self-explanatory, but just to give us a quick summary, it's the most important movie because of what it meant for movies and the film industry. Look at Marlon Brando's iconic performance. If you look at Coppola's writing, and if you look at the cinematography, the editing, it was just perfection all around, and that kind of changed cinema afterwards. From then, you started seeing great films following in the footsteps of The Godfather. I think that was a turning point in the film industry. I think before then we had great films, but it was like an end of an era, and The Godfather was the official start of the new era of films. And I think everyone in their lifetime has to watch The Godfather. If you haven't, you will eventually. If you Google films to watch before you die, The Godfather is always up there as number one, and Part 2 is also up there. So I just think it's the most important movie for many reasons, and those are just a few of them.
I love that. I really love that angle. Caleb, give us your answer.
My answer, would you guess it, is Superman the movie, released in 1978, starring Christopher Reeves.
Christopher Reeves is in that movie?
Yeah, you believe it or not.
Who's that?
I love this movie, and I think it came out at such a quintessential time where making superhero movies was incredibly difficult, and the amount of technology they had to invent and create to bring the movie to life is still technology that they use to this day. You'll be shocked when you realize how much of a role that Superman played in movie making, especially in regards to the superhero genre to this day. But I think it has performances that have stood the test of time. It's had a huge impact, not just on the Superman mythos, but pop culture as a whole. And we are still feeling the effects of a movie released in 1978 to this day, so much so that a man who is 27 years old will sit in a Superman onesie and debate about the movie.
To be fair, it's a weird man. But no. Okay, so it's time to fight, but I just want to add a little caveat to help you guys. Don't fight. Don't tell me how good your movie is. We all know.
Yeah.
Tell me why it's the most important film and why the others aren't. That's the focus. Go for it. Fight it out.
I'll just start here. So I can just end the round quickly. Again, I don't even know why we're doing
It'll save us some time on the edit.
I don't know why we're doing this round, to be honest. You should have seen my answers before coming here and just like, okay.
Okay, cool.
He's got a good rebuttal for you there, my guy.
I mean, The Godfather, like I said, it was the most important movie for the film industry in general. I mean, love Superman, and that's an important movie for, I would say, the comic book movie culture and that industry. I love The Matrix. I love Keanu Reeves and Chad Stahelski. John Wick is part of my Letterboxd 4 favorites. I'm obsessed with those two. The Matrix, I love it as well, and such an iconic movie. But could we live without it? Yes. Could we live without Superman? Yes. The Godfather, the film industry wouldn't be as it is today without The Godfather. And that is the question. What is the most important movie ever made? That was the most important movie ever made. It was a turning point in the film industry. It marked something special. We've never seen something as perfect as that before. Anyone will tell you. Any famous director will tell you that that was the turning point for them in the film industry. It might not be their favorite movie, but you've got to acknowledge it. It is special. It's truly special.
Objection, my lord.
I give the floor to Zaid.
Thank you. So I don't necessarily disagree with anything you're saying, but I think that there's some salt that we need to add on to that just to take it home, right? So here's the reality, right? The baseline of both of your arguments, right, was on this side of your storytelling, right? Godfather, changed the way storytelling was done. And the baseline of yours was that there were some precedents that were set in the movie that informed special effects and how things are done even today. Ladies and gentlemen, I take your movie, and I'm going to put them into the shaker. I'm going to shake it up and give you The Matrix. Because what The Matrix did was, in terms of, if you think Superman did something for special effects, right? Show me one movie today where you have a guy on the rotoscope going over there. Whereas with the movie, most movies, you will see bullet time. You will see the wire work. You will see all of that. Matrix does special effects. It is the DNA of special effects today in 2025. Storytelling. So the thing about The Godfather, right, was that for its time, at the time it came out and up to a certain point after that, the way stories were told was done very much in this hyper, what can I say? I don't know what the technical term. Hyperrealism would be a nice way of putting it. But movies aren't necessarily done like that now. Nowadays, what you're seeing is there's a lot of unrelatable or unreliable narrator type stories. There's a lot of subversion of themes that happens in movies, and the way story pacing happens, where you start almost with that third act boom, and then you get pulled in. Because when you think about The Matrix, the first couple of scenes in the movie, you're like, what is going on here? And then they bring you in. Yeah. So from a storytelling point of view, The Matrix remains one of the most important, possibly the most important movie in modern era cinema, because it acts as the proverbial egg and sperm that just like I shouldn't have went there.
I like it. I like visual storytelling.
Okay, right, and then, boom, now we have the baby of it.
I like how he was the baby.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, oh yes, for the body. You might say it's the body of movies today, yeah? But no, that's why The Matrix. I love both of those movies you're talking about, but Matrix takes us to where we are now and how we go forward.
You guys might not know this. I am a godfather. I am the godfather of a young boy named Micah that I love with all my heart. And as a godfather, I would like to say, there is only one God the Father we should acknowledge, and it's not the movie.
Objection.
That's a circular argument. I don't even.
That's an ad hominem argument, right? And a plea to Greece.
That was me just having fun. Okay, but in regards to actually,
by shaming all of us. I didn't come. Did you come over here for that? No. So, call him to order, sir. On a point of order, comrade.
You will hear a lot from me once this timer runs out.
So, what I would like to say, I'm going to bump up Superman a little bit more, because you spoke a lot about the special
effects. Wrap this into your final argument. I know it's a short one, but you guys went long.
Cool. Okay, let me wrap this up into my final argument.
You can say everything you need to say in your
Okay, cool. So then what I'm going to say is, you did a fantastic job of saying The Godfather's important because it's important. I didn't hear why it was important.
I'm getting to that.
I shouldn't have said this yet. But you did a lot of just saying it's important because it's important and it's on people's important list. Why I think Superman 2 is so incredibly important, especially even today's time. And then I'll rewind back to my notes. You mentioned things like The Boys and Superman. And let's be honest, we're at a point where everyone's like, oh my gosh, World War III is about to start. We do need something that is aspirational and inspirational in the fact that we need something that we can aspire to. And I think Superman is a great example of that. We need someone that we can go, damn, that is a role model that I can look up to, that I want my kids to look up to, that I think all of humanity should look up to. Why? Because that's a selfless man who leads people and self-sacrifices to ensure that people have a better life. I think we need more stories like that today, not less. In regards to my notes and why I said a lot of you don't even realize how much Superman the movie has impacted movies to this day, is Kevin Feige was deeply inspired by Superman the movie, so much so that when he finished studying, he went to go work at the Richard Donner production company and worked underneath Richard Donner's wife, who directed Superman. He was so inspired by Superman the movie and the fact that there were story elements set up in the first Superman movie that were only resolved in the second one, that when he started doing the MCU, he took inspiration from Superman in his production. Let's Google it. Fact check it. The way the MCU works now with multi-movie storylines only happens because Superman did it with Superman the movie and Superman 2. Moving on from that, there are so many. I'll go through my notes quickly because I know I'm running out of time. The idea of a montage of superheroes saving the day, that happens in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. It happens in things like Captain America. That was all taken by the first Nights of Superman montage that took place. Kevin Feige even admitted it. Kevin Feige has said it multiple times, whenever his team works on a superhero origin film, they all have to watch Superman the movie first. You can't fact check that.
No, I did.
That's what I was doing on my computer earlier. So, yes, they created new technology for special effects. They did that with the Matrix as well. I'll agree with you there. But even things that are subtle, like the music is incredibly powerful. Storytelling through music, the way they did it in Superman the movie, in my opinion, very influential in music today. There's a reason why in the latest Superman trailer, they're doing motifs to the classic music from 1978. It's called
nostalgia beating.
I don't think it's just nostalgia baiting. The complexity of the writing for Superman, never once does it go, Superman! But we all go, Superman! Because the music was written to reflect the words we would shout when we listened to it. I wrote the whole page. Most of this is just my notes. But yeah, Kevin Feige idolized Richard Donner and even worked at his production company.
The man is shaking with excitement.
I'm so excited!
Okay.
But yes, I'm done.
Okay, cool. You have other questions. Okay, Cole, you give me your final argument.
So listen up. I hear both of your points, very good ones. I'm going to start with you.
Here we go.
The Matrix, brilliant special effects. It was actually the first movie that fully used green screen for the entire movie. I don't know if you guys know that. No. So yeah, very important for special effects. I agree with that 100%. But then again, not all movies use special effects. Like, for that particular genre, it makes sense. I see what you're saying. Very important for that type of movie. But we're talking about what was the most important movie ever made in general, like for the entire film industry, right? So back to your point.
I should have said that.
You speaking about Superman being as inspiring as it was, and it changed the way forward for superhero movies and inspirational movies, right? And Kevin Feige obviously created this whole MCU universe now as it is, and he was inspired by Superman. Brilliant. I love Kevin Feige. I love what he's done, but that's just a small drop in the film industry. The film industry has so many different types of movies, so many important movies, and I think all of them stem back to The Godfather. Why? It covers all the categories beautifully. Acting, Marlon Brando at his peak, his most iconic performance, one of the most iconic performances ever. Look at the writing of the film, probably one of the best writing we've seen in a movie ever up until today. If you look at the cinematography, back then, that was the turning point for cinematography, right? A lot of films took inspiration from that movie. The editing from that movie, like some of the match cuts in that movie, you see at the time, if you've never seen anything like it, that paved the way forward. If you look at what haven't I covered? The score. Oh my goodness, that's such an iconic score. It just brings you into that universe. Everything that film did was so perfect that people just followed in the footsteps of that, and kind of now we have who do we have today? Martin Scorsese. We wouldn't have him doing what he's done if it wasn't for The Godfather. We wouldn't have who's the director of There Will Be Blood again?
I know you're talking about.
You're waiting to make a sequel to that movie. Yeah. There Will Be Blood again.
I know you're
we wouldn't have his movies. Daniel Day-Lewis's movie. Yeah, we wouldn't have those movies if it wasn't for The God. They all took inspiration from The Godfather. It just paved the way forward for the great films we have in today's time. I think it was so important, and like Caleb said, it's important because it was important. that is so true. It's true. That's
Zay, give me your.
So I want to thank you guys for helping me make my argument, because what both of you have done in trying to defend your respective movies is add pieces to mine, right? Because again, when you talk about a movie being important because it was important, right? Yeah, same. Okay, I agree with you, And the question was, and this is why Caleb's argument doesn't work, right? And foreshadowing, right? You see, you mentioned a lot about how this movie took inspiration from that, and that movie took inspiration from that, and rightly so. But the question was, which one is most important for movie making as a whole? So while I agree with you for a period of time, right? For a period of time, The Godfather acted as the spine on which these things were made, but The Matrix acts as the DNA again for how movies are made today. right? So The Matrix in some ways probably took inspiration, right, from The Godfather, but where did it go from there? If a movie like The Matrix hadn't been made, we'd probably still be stuck where you were, right? And where he's stuck right now. But where we are today is from where we are now as a result of The Matrix. To your point then, right, Caleb, Kevin Feige is not cinema messiah here, right? In fact, if you look at everything that's going wrong with the superhero genre right now, it's probably because of Kevin Feige, right? And this, you can go and check out Midnight's Edge, go and watch some of that, right? And they'll never know that we gave them a plug, but okay, right? But here's the reality, right? You see, superhero movies, right, contrary to what we may believe here, it's not the be-all and end-all of cinema. It's a genre. Now, when you talk about the Superman movie influencing that genre, yes, right, but you don't see it applying holistically over there. As far as movies are concerned, things like the unreliable narrator, right? That stuff that you see in superhero movies, you see it in most movies now. In fact, a lot of the movies that we're watching now, whether it's horror movies, love stories, romantic comedies, romantic dramas, they all have elements of the unreliable narrator. It doesn't only happen in movies, it also happens in series as well. As relates to special effects and whatnot, yes, The Matrix did have those special effects, and that's not the only thing. But if you look at where the last couple of years, right, where a lot of the box office draw comes from, right, movies, it comes from movies that have an X layer or X level of special effects. So therefore, you cannot exclude special effects from The Matrix, right? Or the whole Matrix series movies. So therefore, from a whole rounded perspective of movies as a whole, I would say that The Matrix remains the most important movie to date.
Boom.
That was
the great round from everyone, genuinely. I believe that Superman the movie is the most important movie of all time to you. But both Zaid and Cole killed you on the whole fact of superhero movies is not the beginning and ending of everything. And I think you just couldn't recover from that. Because when it came to you pointing out special effects, which is valid, Zaid brought up a better point about why his did more.
I'm trying something, we'll see if it works.
For the longest time, I was like, Cole should get the point. He's right. Because the fact that the truth is, it was a mark in cinema that changed everything moving forward. And you created a good point of saying that it inspired all cinema moving forward. And you touched on the different aspects of it. The problem is, when we started the arguing of all three of you, Zaid opened his mouth and claimed the victory. Like, he literally just killed you guys with the fact of like taking what your movie does, combining it. Because the truth is, as he highlights, the Matrix has changed so many aspects of filmmaking, where yes, The Godfather does do so much for movie making. This does so much for special effects and storytelling. And as he pointed out, had an impact even outside of the movie industry. So I think just covering his bases so well, and I mean, you couldn't even help but point out cool things The Matrix did that's better. I was really close to giving it to The Godfather, but I think the fact that you could just show why yours is elevated in importance above theirs, you got to get the point. So that's one for Caleb and one for Zaid. But
I think if we're going to talk about The Godfather, we got to talk about.
Can I just address that?
Floating head in Superman.
Can I just address that? His Godfather statement did not have any impact on the argument whatsoever. I thought low blow does not mean anything to me. Even if it's my son. My son's not here and not part of this conversation. Now we will move on to question number 3. This is going to be a fun one. Now, what people may not know is that the one thing the 3 opponents we've gathered here today have in common is that they all happen to be seasoned time travelers. Fun fact. So we appeal to their scientific and experienced prowess when we ask them, what is the least accurate depiction of time travel in a movie? And we will start with Cole.
So, yeah, mine is a super, super weird one, unexpected. I know you guys might think the lake house. So we've seen time traveling in movies a lot. We've seen machines being built. We've seen portals. We've seen weird, but sort of explanatory items that explains the time traveling. The lake house doesn't do that. It just doesn't make sense. I remember watching it as a kid I'm a Keanu Reeves fan, as I said. I've watched pretty much all of his movies. And this one I just did not understand. How does a mailbox, how do you time travel with a mailbox? I just didn't get that. I understand maybe the magical element of it, but it just doesn't make sense. And the movie doesn't elaborate on it. It's so weird. Like up until today, it doesn't make sense. I think it was a waste of a 90-minute watch. I think most time travel movies sort of explains how time travel works. This one doesn't. I don't think it's actually time traveling. So they don't actually ever enter a portal and travel through time, but their mail goes through this mailbox, which is so, I think it's stupid and I think it doesn't make sense. I think it's a movie that shouldn't have been made. That's my point.
That's awesome. Okay, Caleb, what's your answer?
You guys are gonna be shocked. Superman the movie, where Christopher Reeves is able to turn back time because he flies so fast around the planet that the Earth rotates in the opposite direction. And because the Earth is rotating in the opposite direction, for some reason, rather than everything just going, time goes back in time. And then to fix time, he just flies really fast the other way around. Zayd spent 2 minutes in round one talking about how stupid it was. So as much as I love the movie, damn, it's dumb. And I'll even break down plot holes that it creates later on. That's my opening statement.
I will say, you've convinced me to never watch the movie. Thank you for that. Okay. Zayd, give us your answer.
You're a victim of your own success. That's what I'm going to tell you. So while I agree with them to a point that both of those movies are terrible for that, the absolute worst offender is Back to the Future. Because first of all, the name, you're going back to the future. So where were you in the first place, right? So going into this movie over here, you cannot be smoking or drinking anything, right? It's not safe. The entire thing, the MacGuffin is, the DeLorean, right? And in every movie, just the way time travel works. So it subscribes to the theory that time is linear, right? And it doesn't account for any of the stuff that we actually know about time travel in theory now, So literally you go really fast, get hit with lightning, drive in your car, get back in time, and then make up with your mom. Marty,
sounds like a good time.
Marty,
I hope my mom's not watching this episode.
Alabama.
Yeah. But if she is, hi ma'am. Right. It just the whole thing just doesn't make sense. And when you think about, what it says about time travel, because it really does put itself out, that movie actually makes a point of trying to explain time travel. And that's the problem with it. Because if it didn't put itself out to be the gospel as relates to time traveling, then you could get away with, okay, but why a mailbox? Or why fly really fast, turn things around and everyone's okay? Over here, they try to gup us, right, in terms of this is how time travel works. And it's bad. It does not hold up to scrutiny today. So, yeah, Back to the Future.
That's awesome. Find it out, guys.
So I want to just start off by saying time travel is one of my favorite stories. I love Doctor Who. The whole point of Doctor Who is time travel. I love time travel. Every single property that exists tackles time travel differently. The way time travel works in Endgame is different to the way time travel works in Superman, is different to the way it works in The Lake House, is different to Back to the Future, is different to Terminator. Every film decides how they want to tackle time travel. And so I think we've also got to look at it as, how does that movie portray time travel as a topic? Because Endgame, when they travel through time, they're creating new timelines and creating parallel universes. And Doctor Who, not only are there parallel universes, there's multiverses, and then there's pocket dimensions, and there's everything. So I think a good way to analyze whether or not it's a good depiction of time travel is, how does the film handle time travel within the rules it creates for itself? In regards to The Lake House, you're like, they never explain it. That, in many ways, is like, you can't bash down a movie because certain magical elements aren't explained. That robs all ideas of creativity, in my opinion, from the DNA of a movie. There are lots of movies where they don't explain every single facet of something. And the movie focuses on two normal individuals. How the hell are they going to figure out how time travel works? And Doctor Who is full of magical MacGuffins where they're like, ooh, that's a fixed point in time. It's going to impact this. Why is there a fixed point in time? They never explain it, but it has to exist for the story to exist. You can say the movie doesn't need to exist, but it doesn't negate the fact that the time travel is actually explained in the movie. You put the
Are you
letter in the
arguing
mailbox.
in favor of the lake house? Because I'm confused.
We're talking about the worst depiction.
Yeah, so he is technically
I'm talking about how it's a
arguing
good
accuracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
The
hear
movie- the movie does
I
a
hear
good
the
job.
point you're making.
The movie does a good job because it goes, you put the letter in, it appears 2 years in the future. That's the whole rule they've set up. And the movie is built around that. They never travel through time, you're right. Because it's about the letters traveling through time and how their lives are changed by the MacGuffin of the mailbox. In the same way, I think, in many ways, Back to the Future has the most accurate depiction of the actual act of time traveling, because it happens in an instant. There is no traveling through time vortexes, which is a very deliberate decision by director Robert Zemeckis, who, was it Robert Zemeckis?
Yeah.
It was, yeah. And the visual effects department, because at that time, things like Doctor Who and everything were so big where someone had to travel through the time vortex, and they were like, nope, you're traveling through time. Time doesn't impact you. It should be instantaneous. And that's why the DeLorean builds up speed, and then it disappears. You don't see where it is, and then pow, it's out on the other side. Time doesn't affect it.
Okay, I want to hear more
So
from
the
others.
actual act of time travel is very accurate there.
Okay, so this has been very instructive for me because I was going to go about this very, very differently. But now that I understand the rules of the game, no, bruh. No. So by what you've said, right? If saying that if the rule now that you're putting into the argument is that as long as the way they're doing the story holds up in the story, then it's fine. By that logic, right, then Superman is actually the best time travel movie.
Definitely
Here's
not. We'll
why.
talk about that.
Here's why, right? Because up to that, but think about when it was, because your argument against ours was that Doctor Who didn't exist, all these other things didn't exist.
It did exist.
So that was the baseline. Okay, my apologies, but to that point then, right, to that point, if it did exist, right, and everyone knew that, right, and then in the world that you are living in, well, the world that Superman lives in, right, that movie lives in, then by that virtue, if you think about concepts of fate and you think about concepts of like predestiny, that what is happening is always going to happen, then a dude who, by your earlier argument, is practically godlike, relative to that world, right? Him being able to fly above everything else, speak to his father in the clouds like a young like a young Simba, right? And then go backwards over here. That made sense in the world. And then when you look at how everything happened, everything came back to par. And then even in the next movie, when it came to we were talking about consequences earlier, right? Everything staying as is. By virtue of that, Superman makes sense in the world that it does. So as long as they put in the notion that this guy is almost godlike in his way, in his being, he is, they can be a great people color and they wish to be. They only lack the light to show them the way. By that virtue, he is this, what is it, like savior figure. Him going around over there and getting everything on this, it makes sense in the world. It holds up to scrutiny in the world, right? And something only he knows about, just like he is miraculous memory forgetting kiss. So in a way, that also turns back time because it was like it never happened, So Superman is actually a great time travel.
I want to hear more from Cole.
So listen, I agree with your point about that, about Superman obviously being this figure and him going around and doing this time travel thing similar to how the Flash does in the DC universe, where he runs so fast that obviously he breaks the time barrier portal and he turns back time. He actually has the powers to do it. Superman doesn't have the powers to do that, but I get what you're saying as to why it could be believable. The question was, what is the worst depiction of time travel, correct, in a movie?
Least accurate, but
least accurate. If the question was what is one of the most accurate depictions, I would actually list Back to the Future. But you've listed it as one of the least accurate, which I disagree with. I think that it's possibly one of the top 5 most accurate because it makes sense. I wouldn't categorize it as one of the least accurate because it actually makes a lot more sense than, for example, your answer. And the reason why I think the lake house is the best answer for this is because it actually doesn't involve people time traveling, right? Most of the movies you see people time traveling through a portal. Or something like that. Like, I don't know if you've seen the series 11/22/63.
Yeah.
That's
Great
such a good show and such a good example of time travel. And I think that the lake house it just doesn't make sense because why would you want to use a mailbox as a method of time travel?
Why would you use a police box?
Well, yeah, I see what you mean, but
Because it's good and it's exciting.
It's not a
and
Doctor
it's
Who
fun.
question, Caleb.
No, because everything, like even back to the very beginning.
Make it your final argument.
I've done the final argument 3 times in a row. Cole, make it the final argument.
Okay, Cole, give it.
My point is that the Lake House, it didn't need to use a mailbox to depict time travel. Like, is it worth watching an entire movie just to finally realize, okay, a mailbox was the answer as to how this time travel was depicted? Okay, you sending a letter and 50 years later it appears to someone in the future or the past. Wow, like that is the movie? Like, okay. And now what? Like, there's not a point to it, you know. In all these other time travel series and movies, we see a point. In 11/22/63, James Franco goes back in time with a task, with a point. He wants to do something. In the Lake House, there's not a point. Like, yes, we see 2 potential lovers, but I mean, like it doesn't make sense the way it's portrayed. I just don't see it as it being a time travel movie. Make it a magical movie, sure. Make it a magical movie, but don't make it a time travel movie. That's my argument. The reason why they made it a time travel movie just doesn't make sense. I don't think it should have been about time travel. That's my argument.
Okay, Zaid, give us your closing.
So, yeah, agreeing back to what the question was, right, least accurate. So with everything that we know now, I'm looking at this entire question from the perspective of what do we know about time travel theoretically, and where do we land? And at the time, Back to the Future, like you both said, positioned itself as, okay, no, this makes sense. But it was egregious in some ways because the stuff just doesn't hold up. Right. So that's the problem with it. With the Lake House, like you said, it's really a MacGuffin. You don't know, right? But for the story beats, it makes sense relative to the story because it, like you said, it could have been magic, it could have been this thing. They called it time travel, and it's just like, okay, to Caleb's point, as long as it makes sense in the story, then you should be able to go with it, right? And that's the reason why Lake House and Superman still make sense relative to that. Well, Back to the Future, you're positioning yourself as, quote unquote, this is how this whole thing works. It wasn't just a third act salvo. It wasn't just a magical MacGuffin. It was the whole DNA of the movie, and it did it badly. It looked great in special effects. In theory, at the time, if you're smoking something, it makes sense. But if you go anywhere now and say, does Back to the Future hold up? No, it does not. Cannot make sense. And that's why it remains Back to the Future.
Okay, Caleb, close for us.
Okay. You said that there's no point to the time travel in the Lake House. The whole point is because of the time travel mailbox. She is able to send him a letter that saves him from dying because she realizes that he dies in the future. That's the whole crux of it. She saves his life, and then 2 years later, they meet in person and they have a relationship. It's about how magical this mailbox is, that it's able to bring 2 different people from 2 different timelines together to actually have a relationship. That's just a beautiful story. And you don't need to understand how the mailbox works because science fiction or fantasy, whatever it is, it's the magic of love. And that's the point of the story. It's a romantic drama. You don't have to question everything. Then you're robbing movies of magic. It's just because you don't believe the movie shouldn't exist, you wasted 90 minutes, doesn't mean it's not an accurate portrayal of letters traveling through time. There are consequences to those letters traveling through time, and someone survived. In regards to Back to the Future, as I said, I think it's a very accurate portrayal of the actual act of traveling through time. It's instantaneous. It exists outside of time. And the consequences are there. Like, you can see how Marty McFly's life is falling apart and when he travels through time. And the whole point is, why is it called Back to the Future? Because he went to the past and he has to get back to the future. And you see how the actions he does in the past impacts his future. You see cause and effect. That's a good portrayal of time travel. In my honest opinion, the worst, and again, I love this movie, but I can't pretend to tell you that it's not the worst portrayal of time travel ever, because even you said, time travel is not one of Superman's powers. Yet, they rest the whole movie on the fact that he just goes, what if I fly this way really fast? And the way they depict it is he travels so fast that the Earth literally stops, which would just kill everyone. And then he flies so fast the Earth rotates backwards. Please don't Darth Vader me just yet.
I'll wait.
And as the planet is flying backwards, we all know scientifically that doesn't work. Just because something's rotating in a different direction doesn't mean time is going to change. And a lot of people go, oh no, he's flying backwards. And then he goes through time and you see time go backwards. Yeah, because that's what you're going to say. Hey. So What happens is he's flying backwards in time, yes. Then why does he have to then stop and fly that way to get Earth to turn the right way? The actual act of him flying around the Earth in regards to making time work makes no sense. And this is the biggest thing. This is the reason why it actually makes no sense. He travels back in time, reverses time, then flies forward in time. But you know what happens? The nuclear bomb, and they say this in the movie, the nuclear bomb still hits. And it creates a huge plot hole because Superman does absolutely nothing different. The only difference is Lois Lane doesn't die, and the movie knows they've made a mistake, because even Lois Lane is like, Superman, where were you? I had poles falling all over me, and there was an earthquake. But if she was there watching all of this happen, why did she die the first time and not the second time? Because they had to change the script last minute. That's the actual answer, and they created a plot hole, and they know it.
Time. It's funny. So I will say, Cole, I think you just want to see more portals in the Lake House. I think you have a problem with mailboxes. And I think the fact that you tried to argue that it wasn't a time travel movie actually stole from it. I think I personally, and I don't try to bring opinions into my judgment, but I do think, and Caleb stated it so I can use it, is you don't need to explain everything in a movie for it to work. I think the fact that, and that what counts a bit more towards these guys, is the fact that there was an attempt to explain it, and that explanation is what didn't make sense, is what makes it less accurate in a way. So they counted you there nicely. I do like when people take their personal experiences with the movie and bring that to the argument, so I like that you did that and always do that. But I think they just took the time travel aspect of it nicely, and yeah, I counted you there. There was a moment. Zaid is such a good talker. I don't know if he's like in my head, because
he's a lawyer.
Yeah, it is like that, because I'll be like, oh, I'm set, I know who's the winner here, and then Zaid will say stuff, I'm like, he's right. I'm like, wait, listen clearly to what's being said. So there was a large, like I would say 80% of the time, I was going to give you the point. The thing is, I think Cole actually knocked you down. If you could have somehow defended Lake House better, the point was going to go to you, because I like the way that you pointed out that accuracy is actually, it's regarded as quite an accurate film. Caleb built on that, but that's something you've laid a foundation for, which was really good. And I think that's what took you out of it, because your argument and the fact that even for a second you made me consider that Caleb's answer makes sense is crazy, because I didn't think that's possible. And we're like, wait, he's right. It maybe does work in the context. But realistically, it doesn't. And I think, especially in your closing argument, the way you pointed out all the flaws and stuff, and something he said that sealed the deal for him, is the fact that he could highlight cause and effect as being present in both your time-traveling movies, but absent in his to a large extent, is what definitely gets Caleb the point there. So that's your second point.
Okay, you know
Caleb is going to sleep after this.
I need more Superman logos. Okay.
You should see what he's wearing under that.
I think you should take off the Superman onesie. Maybe he'll give us a few points.
You'll see Superman underwear.
Yes,
Kilowatts,
Question number 4. A decade ago, Universal tried their utmost best to bring classic movie monsters back to the big screen with the Dark Universe. Ugh. But they failed abysmally. I'm sure my on-screen friends here will agree with me that it was not due to a bad idea, but simply because the filmmakers were idiots. So we ask you, which classic movie monster remake should happen next? And we will start with Caleb.
So, guess what I'm going to go with?
Superman doesn't count.
Superman doesn't count, unfortunately. So I'm going with the Mole Men from Superman vs. the Mole Men.
Which is a real thing.
So the Mole Men, I think, is such a unique concept, because we all have an idea of what a mole man might be, but they have not been explored in modern cinema. And we could take this in a variety of different ways. In the Superman vs. the Mole Men movie, they were a technologically advanced race that lived underground. And then when they realized that humanity on top was digging down into their territory, they wanted to fight back and get revenge. And that's what happens. But do we have to take that exact route? Maybe if we want to, maybe not. We could also look at it kind of through the lens of like a Doctor Who episode with the reptiles that live underground. And they come up pretty much in a very similar way. Or we could look at it from The Descent, where there are these mutated evil creatures that don't really have a brain, but they act on basic primal rage. There's so many different ways we can tackle the mole men. We can tackle this idea of things living underground, then waging war against us who live on the topsoil. But it hasn't been explored in modern cinema, and I'd love to see that happen.
Cool. Zaid, give me your answer.
I want to say Creature of the Black Lagoon. I'll tell you why. I think that the problem with that movie was, way back when, they just didn't have the special effects ability to do it justice. It was a brilliant classic, but they just didn't have enough. And right now, if you think about everything happening in the world, the stuff writes itself. I mean, this thing could be set in Durban. You guys heard about the thing with the sardines? Did you hear about the sardines?
No, tell me about the sardines.
So the sardines are apparently infected with E. coli, right? So one might say it's a bit of a shitty situation out there, right? But, I mean, I can see it happening now, right? There's a mutated sardine and, it comes... out through the Amgeni waterworks, and everyone is like, "Hey, brah, check the creature from Lagoon, from the Lugs, And I mean, this doesn't have to be like a cult classic or something, but I mean, it could be, set out of Durban, like, Kumar Naidu. Let's do this thing, Let's do this thing. Kandasamis meet the creature from the Black Lagoon. Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Okay, I love it. Cole, give us yours.
Okay, so obviously you said the monster verse that you saw failed.
Yeah.
I think it had a big draw. The Mummy, it had Dracula, it had these big names. And my answer is kind of similar to that. It's a big name, Van Helsing. So I recently rewatched it in the week. I remember as a kid, I really, really loved it because I loved Hugh Jackman and I loved, what's her name? Kate Beckinsale. I think she's in there.
I love Kate Beckinsale.
And I think I love werewolves and vampires. And I think that movie was one of the few movies at the time that did a decent job at portraying that. It's super cool, man. It's such a cool, like, monster hunting / incorporating all the different creatures, Frankenstein, Dracula, werewolves, some other creatures as well. And I think the movie didn't get a good reception back then. I think now, if we could get Guillermo del Toro or Robert Eggers behind it, we could see something flipping amazing, man. That'd be such a cool movie to see if those guys can get behind it.
Okay, cool. Fight, and I want you guys to briefly, as you talk, just elaborate a little bit more on your movies. You can talk about actors, setting, whatever. Elaborate on your concepts.
Are we being too polite that no one wants to go first?
It's fine. I'll cut the silences.
I can go first.
Can I go first?
Yeah,
can I
you're
go
more
first?
than
Just so it's not the whole thing. Okay, so here's the problem, right? Your movie, right, as much as I'd love to see something like that, the problem is it's just too much going on, right? We want one certified banger monster movie where people will be like, okay, yes, this could happen. You know what I mean? So, yeah, the problem with your one is... same challenge, same challenge. Whereas with my one, now let's make it a serious thing over here, right? The world is, we're not doing justice to the planet, right? We need a movie that is actually a cautionary tale. If we make it serious and where it's linked to actual things that are happening based on the stuff we are doing, that's the cause and effect. That's the emotional heart that you need in a monster movie. Because the thing that makes monster movies, the classics, all that much more impactful is the fact that you start to root for the monster. If you look at Frankenstein, for example, you feel for Frankenstein's monster. If you look at Dracula is just a horrible dude, but you sort of like in a way get it, Against that background, you start to realize that you need a movie that has that emotional gravitas because the monster acts as a placeholder for, okay, this is a cautionary tale. A Creature of the Black Lagoon, look, the next world war, right? Yes, we in the middle of everything that's going on now, but the real thing is going to happen because people don't have water. So if you have a creature that comes over there and it's like about, the product placement is on point, So if you have that as a baseline, something everyone can identify with, and you can take it in so many different directions. So that's why Creature of the Black Lagoon. And the merchandising people, come on and call me.
Okay, let me hear from you guys. Caleb's thinking. Cole, jump in.
So, Van Helsing, right? We need a draw. Obviously, for any movie to be successful, you want box office, right? You need fans to actually want to get off their couch and go to the movies. Van Helsing has that draw. I think that's going to get people to the cinemas, which is the first and most important thing, right? Then if we can get one of the great working directors today, like Robert Eggers, what's the other one now? Guillermo del Toro. Yeah. Look what he's done with Frankenstein. I mean, that looks epic, and I can't wait to see it. But if you can get one of those two guys behind it, look at the world that he's built with Nosferatu, Robert Eggers. You were saying earlier that there's too much going on, right? And it has to be something that can happen. But then are monsters real? Can it really happen? I understand maybe like World War Z, like that kind of movie. Sure, maybe that's possible. And that's more realistic. That could happen maybe. But a monster, a vampire, a werewolf, Frankenstein, I think that's world building. I think that's not really realistic. That could actually happen in real life. But I think if you could get someone like Robert Eggers that could do very good world building and create that world like it did with Nosferatu. And then obviously you write a brilliant script for Van Helsing. I think we could see something epic, like, man, monster hunting, monster universes. I think that's such a cool genre. And I think with Van Helsing, it covers all of those in one. It covers vampires, werewolves, Frankenstein. It covers like, what else have I missed? Witches and all that stuff. I think that would be such a cool universe to see come to the screen in today's world of cinema, where now we've got like such good directors that has done movies like that have experience with those movies. I mean, that would be epic to see that movie get remade with the right direction behind it this time.
Yeah. So when we were obviously thinking about what we were going to put for the answers, I was like, okay, cool. What hasn't been explored in modern media if we're actually wanting to pay homage back to the classic movie monsters? And to your point, you're talking about Van Helsing being a draw and everything like that, but I think you kind of shot yourself in the foot, because I don't think you even realize Van Helsing isn't the draw you think it is, considering the fact that just in the last few years, I mean, you've spoken about the Hugh Jackman film. Did you know that there was a Van Helsing in the Dracula series on Netflix that released a few years ago, 2021? There was a Van Helsing in there. Bram Stoker's Dracula, Van Helsing was in there. In 2022, there was a Wrath of Van Helsing movie that came out. In 2021, Bram Stoker's Van Helsing came out.
Sorry.
Yeah, these aren't final arguments. He can interrupt you.
Yeah. What are you doing? Because the whole thing over here, you are picking on instances of Van Helsing where Van Helsing was a character, a side character. This bra is talking about Van Helsing as a franchise thing. What does him having a franchise thing?
I'm just saying.
Thank you for defending me. I'm just gonna interrupt you.
No, I'm gonna tell you why your one now is also.
Keep going, Dave. Keep going.
Hold on. Okay, then stop right there. Listen. Okay, it's an open IP, right? There's going to be remakes. It happens in a lot of universes where it's open IP. People make shitty remakes all the time, which we don't care about, never watch. That's what you're listing now. Irrelevant movies that we're never going to watch.
I don't know if your movie's going to be irrelevant or not. You just keep saying your whole argument is let's get a good director. Let's get a good director. Yeah. You could get a good director for Zaid's movies. You could get a good director for my movies.
Yeah. And let's look at the narrative.
He named a good director. If you guys can name a good director,
get the best director.
I'll get the same guy. Guillermo del Toro will do a great job.
Get your own director.
Guillermo del Toro.
Did you guys save all
You guys.
Del Toro would do a great job, especially when you consider films like. Let me actually do some fact checking quickly.
Okay, while you're doing your research, right? Let the rest of us talk about like what's what to be.
Flippin' Francis Ford Coppola wouldn't even be able to make Mole Man a good movie.
You look, check it, right? You can bring your Van Helsing as a side character in my one, trying to catch my guy at the end, right? But the creature from the Black Lagoon, right? The reality of the thing is that even if you take Del Toro, right, and if you put him in there, this is a monster movie. This is like the monster, Taking Caleb's stuff now about, okay, how do you have the world building? How do you have characters that are lesser known and this and that? Creature of the Black Lagoon. And you both made the point about, okay, no, but can monsters happen? Will it happen? Cautionary tale. Nobody thinks that this stuff can happen until it actually happens. Right now, you got this creature, and the thing is, it'll be one of those silent horror movies, like the deep suspenseful stuff. It's not the gore and the grits and the poo in this case over here. It's really, I really don't want it to be about listed, like E. coli and stuff there. But the point being, this is like a really, really creepy monster. You know what made Jaws amazing? Wasn't the shark, it was the threat of the shark. Now I'm talking about a monster where you maybe don't see it the whole time, like, But I don't know why at that point. I don't know why.
Sharks are real though.
But here's the thing. This is a cautionary tale. Imagine a whole arc where they're like, nah, Xabra, it's Jaws again. This thing is
No,
here.
but you see,
But in
I agree
actual
with
fact,
you. No, but I'm going to agree with you here.
Okay, if you're gonna start, you can just wrap this.
Go, Cole. Well, why did you? I am tired of always being the one who has to wrap his argument first, but I will. I have notes.
He does have no
Shark movies are being made on the regular. Every year we have a new shark movie, and they do well. The Meg, for example. What came out?
The Meg 2.
The Meg 2, Dangerous Animals,
Sharknado
Shallows.
57.
All these shark movies do well because it's a realistic threat. A monster isn't real. It's an imaginary world. It involves world building, which very few people in this world can do. Robert Eggers, Guillermo del Toro are a few of those guys that can do it, and they can make you care about that universe. Who's going to care about the Black Lagoon?
Well, by your logic, right? So
Is this his final argument?
Call me. Let's do this thing.
Okay, do you want to say anything else in your closing statement?
In my closing argument, okay, so Van Helsing is an established character already. Like you said, he's appeared in a few Dracula stories as a side character. He has his own movie already. I think we can build on that and we can make it epic. It's something that will get people to come watch it and support it and feel excited about it. It's about building this world around Van Helsing and this universe. I think it's going to be, and well, obviously it's not official, but I mean, if it was to be made, I think it could be something awesome. I think people will care about it, want to go see it. And I think with Black Lagoon and what is your answer? Moleman. I'll be honest with you. I
even forgot what you
exactly.
Okay, so
Exactly.
That's a terrible debate etiquette.
As someone who's at the movies every week, I've watched 180 movies this year already. I'm not going to care about the Mole Man. I'm not going to care about the Black Lagoon. I'll maybe read about it, but I'm not going to watch it, right? I think the average person wouldn't get up and go to the movies for the Mole Man and Black Lagoon. Van Helsing, maybe, if you get the right team behind it and the right characters. It's already a movie. I mean, if you can get a solid team behind it and a good cast, I think people will be excited to go watch it, but not for the Something Man and the Black Lagoon.
Okay, Caleb, give me your final.
Cool. So what I would like to say is the reason I was reading these titles earlier, you were talking about there is Draw and the name of Van Helsing. And the fact that there have been so many releases, for me...
I have to, as a fact-checking point, state that the movie you named Wrath of Dracula, which is the one with Van Helsing in it. Yes.
Wrath of Van Helsing, not
Okay, I'll
Wrath of
double-check
Dracula.
it.
Wrath of Van Helsing
Continue.
from 2022 was to just illustrate the fact that if you're saying there's an audience for it, no one showed up in cinemas for those. So that's the final argument. Whereas I will say there are people that want to see Zaid's film. How do I know that? Think about the popularity of a character like Abe Sapien in Hellboy movies. There we go. But and also to top up that, the question was pitch a classic monster movie remake. What movie are you remaking? There is no Van Helsing movie to remake. Am I wrong in that?
There's literally a Van Helsing movie with Hugh Jackman.
Is that a classic monster movie?
No, but Van Helsing features in Dracula.
Is that the movie he's going to be remaking?
No, it's a classic monster remake. A remake of that monster.
Okay, I'm
So I understand, but it's too weak as an official.
Okay, I'm fine with that. What I will say is, in many ways,
authority.
no, I respect it. Respect his authority. I do.
Screw you, Caleb.
Screw you, Zed.
Screw you, Caleb.
Why did this become a South Park episode? Okay. What I will say in response to that, there is already a remake for all intents and purposes with all the elements explored of Creature of the Black Lagoon, and it's called The Shape of Water, and it was good. And I think people don't need to see that film again. I understand that you were talking about the special effects and everything back then, but we've gotten that update and we've seen it in The Shape of Water. You want to talk about a cautionary tale? Let's talk about a cautionary tale. You want to talk about, I loved your idea as well of like a Durban film. That's great. But then you said, no, let's get serious. Let's get serious. Let's get serious. Let's talk about an actual cautionary tale. Everything you want to talk about in regards to the environment or how we could be polluting this, everything you say about the ocean, you can say about the land as well. And the more men rising up and going, hey, you are destroying our environments. Or let's just have little tadpoles or little frogs that live in the ground that are getting mutated as well. Anything you can do to create a mutated fish, you can get a mutated mutated mole, and they become the mole men. There's so many different routes we can take this. I want to pitch two different movies. One movie is where the mole men have existed for just as long as humanity, and they are a peaceful race who are now being indirectly attacked by humanity, and they're going to fight back because despite the fact that they are peaceful, humanity is destroying their home. Now they've got to fight back. That's your cautionary tale. Or if we just want to go for a full-on horror, let's make them rabid creatures and film it in the same sort of style as Wrong Turn, where their goal is just to torture people and kill people. And it works because they are blind moles who don't like the sun, but they'll go out, they'll grab people and rip them apart. And we can make that super gory and super gross. And I think both films will work great. We just have to decide that Mole Men are an actual classic monster movie character.
That's fine.
That's
when we accepted your answer, we accepted
fantastic.
that it's classic.
And last point, in regards to you love the idea of world building. If it's a worldwide invasion, you have your world building right there. You can even introduce a Van Helsing character into the Mole Men and have him go with his crossbows.
Okay, Zaid, final argument.
So I think that, it's when we talk about cautionary tales, right? And I want to thank you for making the argument for me again.
You're welcome,
So
homie.
take everything, do a Control F, take out Mole Men, right? Delete that because it's inconsequential. And I'm sorry, bro, right?
No, I love you.
And then bring in over here Creature of Lugs, right? Because what it is over there, it's more plausible that with everything that's going on, that you can do all that stuff there. Shape of Water, yeah, for a second of there, I'm like, you Ed Sheeran this thing over here because I'm just seeing the shape of all of you, right? Okay, I just want to insert that somewhere, right? Okay, but realistically speaking, right, I really, really do think that given where we are today, and we can take world building over here as well, the world, there's a water crisis. I love the timing with the water bottle. There's a water crisis over here. You don't want to be too on the nose with the whole thing, but it's a believable subplot, and then aside from the shortage of water, right now you have the little water that we have remaining. This thing now has been polluted and it's actually mutating the stuff in there, and the flow through from that, right, that can lean into all of these different ideas, right? And then your brother Van Helsing can come and he can
Van Helsing gets to be in everything. Van Helsing is the new Samuel L. Jackson of our universe.
I'm going to keep this short and sweet.
I'm sick and tired of these motherfuckers.
You too, when I think about watching the movies, I go, ugh. You're the only movie I even slightly want to watch. You guys were giving me the most depressing PSA
I think depressing is good, Zaid.
No,
I've got your back.
not fun. Like, you took yours also sounded more like a Daily Sun headline than it did a movie. And
Attack in Durban.
yeah, yours also just feels like an AI, like
AI generated.
genuinely. And also the thing is, I understand what you were saying about the water shortage, but then water shortage in a movie where the creature needs water kind of feels weird. So, and you guys kept on putting Van Helsing in your movies. So I think you honestly, when you said Robert Eggers and when you gave me a good picture and a good vision for your movie, you kind of already wanted there.
I should have said Guillermo del Toro.
No, you guys literally just cruised off him.
Because he directed Pan's Labyrinth, and we love the design of those
but here's
creatures.
the thing. Not only did you give me one bad movie idea,
I gave you two.
you gave me two bad movies. I'm like, let's hear them both. Don't want to see either one of them. So 100% Cole gets that.
Well done, Cole. Well done, Cole.
I'm on the scoreboard and I'm coming
Yes,
through.
no. It's this is the question where I'm like, yeah, not even close. Simply because I do think he also knocked you out well with the Shape of Water thing, because I understand not the same thing. And honestly, I would love to see a Creature from the Black Lagoon, because that original movie is so groundbreaking for its time.
Yeah. No, firstly, great choice. I had to go with Mole Men because what else is Superman related? That's also a classic monster.
It's a terrible monster, Mole Men. It's so stupid. And also the descent was kind of a tell there. Okay.
Yeah.
Final question. Currently, Caleb, you're set for final round. So it's between Cole and Zaid who gets through based on this question. If you win this point, they'll have to do a tiebreaker. So let's see. Okay. It seems like the days of DC movie equals bad might be coming to an end. So let's be nostalgic and remember the bad old times. As we ask you, what is the worst DC movie of all time? We'll start with Zaid.
Suicide Squad. Not the Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad. Right, yeah. Jared Leto, you okay. So the reason why it's bad, right, is because it's the story just doesn't make sense, right? All things being equal, you get this team build-up movie, and then they're going after this chick at the end with lasers and dance moves. She's gonna kill you with the power of dance, like it was a Venga Boys concert or something. And then all in all, it just didn't land well. And the worst thing about it was that the way they pitched it, all the trailers and everything we saw, I thought it was gonna be one thing. And then it was what it wasn't. So aside from the movie being objectively bad, subjectively as a fan, I was like, you built me up, Buttercup, just to break me down. It was terrible. So Suicide Squad, in an era that we're living in now, right, given all the tools that they had, the special effects, the creators, the cast that they had, all of that, they had all the building blocks to build a phenomenal movie. And they shut the bed, and that's why Suicide Squad is the worst. So, yeah.
Awesome. Cole?
Okay, so my answer is Catwoman with Halle Berry. Oh man, that movie was terrible. So if you look at the two recent Catwoman from the Batman, Zoe Kravitz, and then we have Anne Hathaway in The Dark Knight Rises. Those two Catwomen weren't what do you call it? They weren't bitten by cats, or they didn't.
They weren't licked to get their powers.
They didn't get powers from a cat. It was just they theme because of their abilities. It kind of suits their theme and what they do. Okay, those two are very, very well portrayed. If you look at Halle Berry's Catwoman, you're telling me that, okay, because you were bitten by a cat, now you're turning into a Catwoman.
She wasn't even bitten, she was licked.
She's licked by a cat. Exactly.
Was licked by cats.
So, yeah, you're making my point for me.
I am. She was licked.
It was so bad. And the movie was so corny. The writing was just, oh man, it was bad. It was a hard watch. I remember watching it as a kid and I was like, what is this? Like, what am I watching? And the movie was trying to be horny. Like, with her outfit, I don't know if you guys remember, but it looked like she was like some dominatrix, BDSM, I don't know whatever. Is that allowed?
Yeah, go for it. You can say whatever you want.
I don't know what they're trying to do with that outfit, but yeah, it was just bad. And I don't know if they were trying to make it a bad movie. I think they were, to be honest with you. And yeah, for me, that remains the worst DC movie of our time.
Can I just point out, right, that what you just said there, where they're trying to make a bad movie, that's why it makes it not as bad.
Okay, but let's hear from Caleb first. Caleb, give me your...
You guys wouldn't believe it. It's Superman related. It is Superman 4, A Quest for Peace. You guys have heard me all day talk about how much I love Superman. I do not have the words to describe how much I unlove. In fact, I will just say it. Not only do I hate, I loathe Superman 4, A Quest for Peace.
Tell us about your feelings.
I will. You know what? There is a great song by a fantastic musical called Wicked. And it goes off, what is this feeling I'm having inside? And then the whole thing is about just loathing and absolutely hating. And every time I think about Superman 4, A Quest for Peace, I don't have the words. Just pure, unadulterated hatred. And I will break down why. But it literally, how do you make two great Superman movies, one average one, and then one piece of filthy trash that is so bad? When I think about it, I want to take off this onesie and sit in my underwear. But I'm not going to do that because I love you guys.
Yeah, don't do that. Okay, go for it.
Okay, I'm going to do a reverse Vincent. Because Vincent likes to do this thing where he goes, I think we can all agree these are good movies. We're going to flip that. I think we can all agree these are trash movies. The difference is, I think there are redeeming elements, although few, for both of your films. I think in many ways, the makeup for your film, I mean, there's a reason why Harley Quinn became super duper popular. The look is iconic. They brought it to life in a new way that wasn't in the comics, and people gravitated to it. We all remember Comic-Con, especially late 2010s and early 2020s, 2019, 2018, where everybody was dressed up as Harley Quinn. So there were enjoyable aspects of that film.
Because it was a cheap cosplay.
Not only was it a cheap cosplay,
no, it was a cheap cosplay.
The makeup won an Oscar.
Right.
Yes.
Now,
so that's the thing. There are redeeming elements of your film.
No.
There's nothing redeeming about Superman 4.
No. Sorry. the thing about the Oscars, first of all, right? The Oscars, and hear me now, right? Not Rachel Zeglering this thing, never going to get a ticket to the Oscars. If you are out of here now saying that the Oscars in 2025 is any reason why anything should be given that thumbs up, then you have not read
it wasn't in 2025.
Okay, but the problem is that whole thing is rigged, and that's a different story. The issue over here, right, with Superman Quest for Peace is that if you are talking about redeeming qualities, you yourself
don't talk about that.
Went over there and they, but the thing about Superman is that it's amazing because in that same courtroom scene when he went to the UN, look at my onesie, this is it. So you cannot now in one, right? Circular argument, my friend, invalid. You cannot now in one say, no, but this thing was lacquer, boss.
Who do you think is going to edit this episode?
So, no. With respect, right, to Catwoman, right, the whole thing over there is that given that time when that movie was made, we were still in the really, really shitty era where superhero movies were not seen as what they are seen as now, a viable contender at the box office, a viable business opportunity, whether it is for storytelling, world building, merchandising, which you cannot exclude from the equation, right? The thing is, that movie was made around the same time that superhero movies where they just didn't care about anything. It was just like, well, okay. And a lot of those movies were made purely to keep the rights, right? So it wasn't that. Suicide Squad now was part of the DCEU. I don't even know what they're calling it anymore, right?
It was the DCEU, now it's the DCU.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you, right? Hashtag fact check Caleb, right? Now, but the thing is, at that point there, when they were really going at it, the DCU was really going, DCEU. Which one?
DCEU.
Thank you, right? The DCEU. I'm dropping my E's and my U's. Right? So the DCEU was really going at it to make this thing a contender. I could have been a contender, but you was not. Because they just shat the bed with it. Yeah. You cannot have all of this world building going on, taking this thing seriously, making a point of getting all of these A-class creators, right? A-level creators, rather, and then after that, putting that out and putting that edit out. The fact that all these years later, there's allegedly an Aya cut somewhere, right? Yeah. So now the fact is they know that they could have done something good, and then they shut the bed with it. Worse.
Okay, when you have more phone call.
So, listen, you were saying that this round is, we can all agree that it's all bad movies. I think Suicide Squad is a good movie.
Let's see.
I enjoyed it. I know people didn't enjoy it, and I know objectively people see it as a bad movie. You hear me out? I love movies, right? And I know some movies are bad, some movies are good. That's just the truth of things. But you get those guilty pleasure watches, and I think for me, Suicide Squad is one of those movies. I think it's for me.
That doesn't make it a good movie.
Listen,
that just means it's getting you
so subjectively, for me, it's a good movie. I know most people won't agree. I like your point about it winning an Oscar. I know you said Oscars are rigged, which is so true, but still,
don't invalidate the points while you're trying to agree with me.
But listen, the point is, it still won an Oscar. It's on your CV. You've won an Oscar for the movie. It's still. I think it has good points. It has good music. 21 Pilots, such an epic track. It's got good makeup, costume design, all of that's super cool. I think it has some really good action. I think the plot maybe has a bit of flaws and so on. But I think for me, if I'm looking for a good movie to watch in the DC universe, I'll probably start with Suicide Squad and then work my way up with that. I think it was a good movie. I think if you look at Catwoman compared to Suicide Squad, which movie would you say deserved to be made more? You said Catwoman had to be made to keep the rights. It had to be made. It didn't. Basically, they made the movie just to keep the rights. It wasn't like, okay, we're going to try and make this because we want to do a good job with the movie. We're just doing it because we're doing it.
I'm going to actually defend.
You're going to hate this. Make this your final argument.
My final argument is one good scene does not a good movie make. I mentioned one good scene in Superman 4. You will come across many good scenes in bad movies. That one scene doesn't save it. What I will say in regards to, actually, let's start with Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad did have redeeming qualities. I've mentioned the makeup, and Margot Robbie was good in that film. And the action, despite being a little bit dark at some points, was enjoyable. And I will say the stylistic approach was at least something unique and creative. I'm an editor. I like to try to explore things that are a little bit more creative. Does it always work? No, but I admire their boldness in at least trying. But where I will agree with you is how do you drop a ball like Suicide Squad when you prove it in the very next movie with the Suicide Squad with how good it could have been? I get angry when I watch Suicide Squad. I'm with you. I think that movie's trash. It's bad. It's not good because we've seen how good it can be in the Suicide Squad. What I will say about Catwoman, and this is a weird one, because there is a very defined line when something is bad and it causes you pain, like Suicide Squad, versus when something is bad, but it's so bad it's good, and that's Catwoman for me. There are so many campy elements where you can go, oh my goodness, that's so... She got cat powers from being licked by a cat. I can joke about that because it doesn't actually piss me off. I get pissed off when I think about Suicide Squad because they had potential and they squandered it because Warner Brothers sucks. Except for Warner Brothers South Africa that invites me to movie premieres. You guys are all right. But let me just say, there are many elements of Catwoman that actually negate it, in my opinion, as a good adaptation of Catwoman because Catwoman doesn't have cat powers. So that just adds to the campiness of it. It is so weird, like an evil makeup brand. Come on, you can't take that seriously. Suicide Squad is trying to make itself serious, and it's just bad as a result. They're not even trying.
I don't know what you're doing.
I'm trying to.
So let's stop you. I don't understand.
He's doing my closing argument for me.
You're done.
I'm just putting all my points on it.
Okay, Cole, give me your final
Thank you for doing part of my closing argument there. Okay, so if you speak about objectively bad, you can fact check me on this, but I think of the three movies, Catwoman has the lowest Rotten Tomatoes score, right? I think it's like 8%, which is
You'll be
terrible.
shocked that there are some with lower than that.
I know, but of these three, it's definitely the lowest by far. Okay, Suicide Squad had a really good return on box office. I know it wasn't a good movie objectively. People didn't like it, but people still went to see it and it made a lot of money. It won an Oscar. So it has its redeeming qualities, like you mentioned earlier. I think Catwoman doesn't really have many redeeming qualities, if any. I think Suicide Squad shouldn't even be on this list because I think it's not that bad of a movie. There's been worse DC movies. Trust me on this. So yeah, I think, Caleb, you just chose Superman for all of your answers.
Yeah. Okay, Zaid, finish up for us.
So for Superman, right, to start out there, right, you're right. One good scene does not a bad movie make, right? But the problem is there were a couple of really good scenes there. In that movie, anything with Christopher Reeve in it was already a good scene. So, you are, again, a victim of your own success because you made that point earlier. The problem with that movie over there was that in the year it was made, 1986, 1987, somewhere around there, right? For what it was, for what it did, right? Not the worst movie ever because it was era appropriate, right? And there were some doff things in it, but it made sense in the context of what it was. You knew what you were going into, as is the case with Catwoman. You knew what you were going into, right? And when you watched it, the reason why, those low scores and whatnot from Rotten Tomatoes with the same issue that I have with the Oscars, right? There's chills galore in there, right? And people just say things for clout. The problem with that movie over there was that, yes, it didn't live up to what fans wanted. But as a watch, it's something you can watch and just be like, okay, this is funny. It's a comedy. It's really, Catwoman is a comedy. And if you go in with that mindset, it's a comedy, right? That needs to be a gift.
Yeah, no, yes.
Needs to be a gift. So, it's a comedy. So you can go in over there and it's a comedy. Now, I like the point that you made with Suicide Squad having such a big box office, right? Because it helps me argue the fact why it's horse apples. Because so many people went in there to go and watch it and came out being like, Haibo, what happened here? You know what I mean? So everyone went in, this is what I'm saying, it's expectations belie reality. Some Shakespeare for you. The reality is when you go in over there and you go and watch Suicide Squad, you went in there expecting that, okay, listen, we've got all of these different notes that would go over there and all of it just didn't make sense. You watch that movie, you come away and you're like, what was this? Like, what was this about? With Superman Quest for Peace, it says the Quest for Peace. You know what you're going into. But at that point there, you had two good movies, an okay-ish one, and then you have this one. So you knew, okay, this is what it is, right? With Catwoman, you were like, well, this is somewhere in the early 2000s, mid-2000s. All right, let's check what it is. There's nothing else to go and watch, right? With my one, at the time when it was happening, superhero movies were the tentpoles. They were the anchors of cinema, right? And then you go in there thinking, hey, you know what? I know these characters. Okay, Joker's going to be over there. Okay, Harley Quinn's going to be in over there. Okay, there's all these other guys who are going to go in over there. You're going to spend this money. You're going to go in and you come like, what in the actual what happened over here? You know, that's why it's bad. All the accolades that came with box office and Oscars and whatnot, right? None of that had anything to do with the movie itself, if you think about it. The box office came as the hype for what it was supposed to be. The movie itself was piss poor. If your only claim to fame is that, okay, no, listen, you were lucky because maybe you were born with it, maybe it's Maybelline, right? Then not really now a good advocate for why the movie is good. And that's why Suicide Squad is the worst.
I love Darth Vader so much.
This is by far the hardest one to pick between Cole and Zaid.
Yeah, no.
Genuinely, I was sitting here like, what am I going to do? And it really did come down to final arguments. You guys so beautifully set up why Suicide Squad is not that bad. Like giving points against the Oscars budget, And I was like, okay, that takes Zaid out of the argument because they kind of gave such a good reason why that's good. And then he, in the last second, rose like a phoenix and actually just perfectly countered that point. You made the best point you made. Because he said the box office, and I'm like, okay, that's a good point. People went to watch it. Maybe people, especially on a global scale, enjoyed it. But you're like, no, that's how much people wanted to go see it. Guess what? I was one of those people. I remember panicking. I was 16 when the movie came out. I was panicking because I'm like, oh no, I'm going to have a new favorite movie after this comes out. And I'm not ready to say goodbye to this other movie. And it's the first...
He's still afraid to say goodbye to it. Yeah. He refuses to watch it in case he doesn't like it as much.
And so now, when I watched it, it's the first time where I had like an internal crisis from... But it was supposed to be good. So I relate to everything you're saying, and you covered it perfectly. You were close, but his takedown of brilliant rebuttals from you guys is why Zaid gets the point on that one. You are so lucky you're a lawyer. Because damn, you hire this guy. Because damn, he's good at arguing. Which means you two are going into the final argument.
Okay, let's go. Yeah! Tag team back again, right?
But it was close.
You can deal with this guy over here.
You are going to have to help me judge these two. I'm not the only one. So it's going to be between you, myself, and if we don't agree, we'll get the person, whoever behind the camera to weigh in. So now we will enter into the speed round showdown.
These things make me nervous.
Okay. Here are the rules for the speed round showdowns. Very specific rules. I will ask a question. You mustn't look at these questions.
I can't.
I will ask a question. Answers are first come, first serve. Sometimes it's a this or that. So whoever says the thing first, the other person has to fight for the other thing.
Will you tell us if it's a this or that?
Yes, I'll warn you if it's going to be a this or that. So whatever happens, whatever you end up with, just go for it. Like, make that your truth. If you can't give us an answer to an open-ended question, you forfeit the point. You'll have about 5 to 10 seconds to give us an answer. You will have 20 seconds each for initial argument. So 20 seconds. Then you'll have 15 seconds to rebuttal, each in an allotted time. So this is not an interrupting thing at all. The overall winner of plot armor will be the contestant with the unbeatable amount of points. So you both are 2. Let's make that 0 again. It negates each other. So it's the best out of 5. So first to 3 wins. Okay. Are you ready for the first question?
Yes.
Yeah, I wasn't stressed out before, but now
it's
you
on.
brought math into the thing. Okay. You know, right.
Okay, this is an open-ended one, so you have to give an answer.
Oh, so we just
say your answer. Yeah.
Okay.
What?
Do I have to go up?
No, it's all good.
You can just
scream out an answer when you got it, but don't start arguing it, just an answer. Okay. What would be the lamest thing to conjure with a lantern power ring in a fight?
Yeah.
No, go for it. Say your answer.
Okay, so...
No, just give an answer.
A pie.
Okay.
A feather.
Okay.
A what?
A feather.
Okay, so, Zaid, because you answered first, you're 26. I'm going to tell you when it starts. In 3, 2, 1, go.
You can't eat it. it's a light construct, right? So you're going to have a pie, you're going to put it up there, everyone likes pie, and then you're going to realize that, oh man, I can't eat this thing. And then what are you going to do it after? Throw it in someone's face? You can't, because it's a light construct. So ultimately, once again, it is the subversion of the expectation of a good pie, only to realize you make a pie and pie.
That's okay. Caleb, are you ready? In 3, 2, 1, go.
One individual feather does absolutely nothing. If you ever want a feather to be useful, it has to be with a variety of other feathers in order to do something like fly, which Green Lantern can do by himself. He doesn't need help, he doesn't need wings. So one individual feather could do absolutely nothing positive or negative to anybody.
Okay, time. Okay, hold on. And your 15-second rebuttal starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Incorrect. You could stick it in your cap and call yourself Yankee Doodle. That's number one. The second thing over there is that if you were doing a William Tell cosplay, you could put it over there inside your band and you could do that as well. Thing number 3, if you went to Comic-Con, get your tickets, you could then now use that part of a cosplay over there and call yourself that.
Okay. Your rebuttal starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Especially in the role of a Green Lantern, if you're having to use that ring, a pie could actually be useful in a variety of different situations. You want to distract a bunch of people from getting hit by a car, there's a pie, quickly go get it. If you want to distract somebody, hit the pie in their face. Yes, it's a light construct, but then they start to, ooh, there's pie on my face. Now they're distracted, they can't fight.
Time.
Can you call yourself Yankee Doodle?
Okay, that's actually difficult. I'm going to go, Cole, tell me who you think won that first.
I'm gonna go with Caleb because his point was pretty well argumented.
Okay, that's so tough. Okay, I think I can't. Okay, I don't know. I'm gonna go with Zaid simply because I think your creativity is what I love because that's the point of a group. So that's a split opinion. We've got Bootleg behind the camera. Who do you think deserves the point? Okay, yes. Caleb was said.
Love you so much.
Caleb gets the first point.
I mean, nobody saw the look of horror she had over there. Like,
I was like, you're not going to leave this house alive.
Okay, that's 1 point, Caleb, 0 Zaid.
But I get a point for using Yankee Doodle.
Yeah, no, that was fantastic. That's what I'm saying. Your creativity sold it. Okay, question 2, open-ended question.
Okay.
Shout out your answer as soon as you have it. Which movie character's homework would be the best to copy from?
Sheldon Cooper. No, that's not
a movie.
Oppenheimer.
I would say Batman.
Okay. I heard Caleb first. Caleb, your 20 seconds starts in 3, 2, 1.
So I was very, very good when I was at school. Now, if I needed to copy homework from someone, what were the subjects I struggled with the most? Mathematics and physics. Oh, wow. Oppenheimer was great at both of those. I'm going to copy from him.
Okay. Zaid in 3, 2, 1.
Homework is inherently prep time. Batman is all about winning with that prep time. So Oppenheimer out. Second of all, never was there a situation where Batman's homework might have destroyed the whole world. Oppenheimer, yeah. And then last but not least, right, Batwork, homework. The song writes itself, you know?
Okay, cool. Your 15-second rebuttal starts now.
No, there are many universes where copying Batman's homework could result in the world being destroyed. In fact, here's a contingency plan for every single Justice League member. Copying his homework isn't necessarily the best thing. And on top of that, Batman could destroy the world multiple times if he so wanted to.
Okay, and 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so the thing about Oppenheimer is the one thing he was really, really good at was that one thing that nearly blew us up. So I don't know, that tells me a lot about where you're going. You should not be reading that. Right, the second thing over here is that Batman, right? It's context. It's an answer for every context. That's why I need to call Batman.
Okay, personally, I have to give that to Zaid. He kind of covered every facet. What do you think?
I think I'm on the opposite end of it. I think that is an easy one for Caleb.
Really?
Batman wasn't probably at school most of the time. He wasn't even Batman till he was like 30.
That wasn't brought up in the argument. Remember the concept. But I hear you. Okay, let's hear what Butler says once again. Zaid, I'm trying. I don't know what these people are smoking, hey?
So, it's the price of success.
No, I agree that you destroyed him, in my opinion. But the rules are rules. Okay. That's 2 Caleb, 1 Zaid. Which means, Zaid, you have to win this point to be contending at all.
Okay.
Okay, this is an open-ended one as well. Who portrayed Lex Luthor best?
Gene Hackman.
Michael Rosenbaum.
Okay. Might you tell us in what? For those who don't know Superman well. I'm just curious.
Okay. Michael Rosenbaum was Lex Luthor in Smallville.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, cool. I heard you first, right? Yes, okay. And
Hackman was...
Yeah, no, I know. I know.
Oh, wait, did you just not know who
I don't know who that is. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
Gene Hackman did a phenomenal job of capturing the campiness of the Superman era and the Superman comics. You could go, wow, that was ripped straight off the comic book page. I want to see what other dastardly deeds he's getting up to.
Cool. 3, 2, 1, go.
So in Smallville, we meet a Lex coming into his own. Given the post-crisis era of comics we were in, we saw Lex becoming the megalomaniac, billionaire bad guy. And you sort of seen that growth happening over there. He was menacing, he was charming, and just really, really good to look at in the context of you never rooted for a bad guy that much. Yeah.
Okay, and rebuttal 15 seconds. 3, 2, 1.
The first few seasons of Smallville, Lex Luthor is not the bad guy. He's a good guy that you do like. And when we finally do get the evil version of Lex Luthor, he's nothing like the comic books. He's sitting there with a mask and a wheelchair attached to some gas canisters, completely removed from the Lex Luthor we know from the comics.
Okay, and 3, 2, 1.
So my version of Lex Luthor was story related. So in the context of the story, everything that happened to them tied in to his goals. Your one was just looking for land. He was very, very campy, but there were no stakes. You didn't feel he was a bad guy. He was just campy.
Okay, time. Sure. Okay, I'll go to you first, Cole.
I did the same thing, yes.
So answers, very good answers both. Man, this is a tough one. It comes down to how you guys argumented it.
It's a hard one.
It's a hard one, a very, very hard one. I'm gonna have to go. Sorry, Zaid. No. Caleb.
Okay,
I love you so much.
This is tough because everything rides on this, and I want to give an honest answer. I think, coincidentally, I'm gonna go Zaid. Reason why? I think he painted a better picture for the character as opposed to just this idea of a character. Okay, well,
you're in it still. Okay. I would like to say Vincent's supposed to be my best friend.
Not here. Okay, so it's 2-1. Yeah, like I said, you have to win every point to have an opportunity to win. Question 4. It's a this or that. We're talking about what is best, is the question. Film or digital?
Film.
Digital.
Interesting. Okay. I heard film first. So, Zaid, you will go with 20 seconds on the clock. So, your 20 seconds starts in 3, 2...
You're talking about the medium, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Go.
We live in a world where everything is digital, right? Your phone, everything is digital. But film there's a certain timelessness about it, right? And I feel that you want that escape from everything else that you see. So if you have that medium, it sort of creates this different experience that seems to be lost. There's soul in it.
Okay, and Caleb, in 3, 2, 1, go.
We do live in a digital age, and it's allowed people to empower themselves. Things like this show would not exist if we only had the ability to rely on film. Majority of indie filmmakers would not have the budgets that they need to bring stories and movies to life. There are so many limitations on film that digital just completely negates.
Okay, and Zaid, rebuttal in 3, 2, 1, go.
The problem then is not the medium, it's access to the medium. So the fact that digital is made available, it's only because it's a side effect of where it is. Now, if you did the same thing for film, it completely eradicates all of that. All I'm saying is it's a viable option, a viable alternative, and needs to be preserved.
And Caleb, 3, 2, 1, go.
If even just acquiring it is removed as a problem, there are also issues in regards to storing. Film can be very, very difficult to store. Digital creates a copy. We use backups for everything we do for Plot Armor, as well as the work we do in our full-time jobs. You have to make sure that you can secure everything.
Okay.
This isn't part of the argument at all. Interesting fact, a lot of the Doctor Who episodes have been lost to time because the film deteriorated.
It's fine, I will disregard that.
I just think that's an interesting fact. We almost lost the first Doctor Who regeneration ever.
So here's my issue. I love the points you brought up. I'm wondering if I can consider them because you spoke about digital in the context outside of movies, but you touched on the indie thing. No, I think that's fair. So, okay, I'm going to give this point to Caleb because, let me just say that. What do you think?
I think the jury should disregard Caleb's last statement.
No, I will absolutely.
That last one does not count at all. Okay. That was just an interesting fact because I love Doctor Who.
But yeah, if I was choosing, I would go team film. But it comes down to how you argued it, and I think you did a better job. Sorry.
Which means
I've just been choosing Caleb, but yeah.
No,
I'm going
which means the main character of this episode is Caleb. You did it.
I won't lie. I want to celebrate. My heart is broken because I don't like the fact that I beat Zaid. He's like my favorite person in the world.
You are just lucky that you did. I think because you're so passionate about Superman, it helped. But damn, Zaid is scary. Yeah. I'm scared. I want to face you.
I would like to see a Zaid and Bruce.
Yeah, no, you killed it, Zaid. Like all of you killed it. But that final, you brought it, hey. And I think. I don't know what these guys were smoking with the pie was such a good answer. So I'll just say that.
Thank you so much.
But so I'm in your corner, but fun. Caleb, you won it fair and square, and you did a really good job. Stressful. Cole, I really think what I loved about how you brought it is you brought something different. These two are so similar, and I've listened to them have long conversations. I just want to go home where he brought something a fresh perspective, and I know you love film, and I love people who love film. So it's really good to have your perspective.
I've learned a lot about Superman today.
Yeah, same. Worth learning? Not really, but I'm happy I did. Speaking about your love for film, Cole, let's take this final opportunity. Please plug your socials. Anything else you want to plug, now's the time to do so.
Awesome, thanks. So I run a page called Movie Doctors on Instagram. I just launched my website yesterday as well.
That's really awesome.
Cool. I was looking at it earlier.
Thanks, I appreciate
We'll link it in the comments as well, definitely.
Thanks, guys. So what I do is I just basically do film reviews, vlogs. I have a podcast launching soon, filming my first episode next week with Cameron Scott. Can't wait for that. In collaboration with UIP South Africa. I'm really excited about that. So please, guys, if you're into movie podcasts, want to talk about movies, want to interact with people in the film industry, watch this channel. I'm going to be interviewing celebrities and like-minded individuals in the film industry. Apart from that, I'm also an aspiring director. I'm shooting my first short film later this year.
High five! That's awesome. Sorry, he's got a broken hand.
But I want to create my own films. My first film is in production. In planning for later this year, so I'm really excited about that. So please, if you guys can support that when I do eventually get that up and running, I would appreciate that. Otherwise, I'll catch you all at movie premieres. That's my thing. I'll see you guys at the next one. I hope you come to one of them, Zaid. It'll be cool to interact with you there, hang out with you guys again. And thank you so much for having me here. This is so fun. It's inspiring for me to see that you guys have what you guys have done here. Thanks, guys.
No, it's been awesome to have you on, and we'd love to see you back. And maybe one day we can come speak on your podcast.
I would love that.
That would be awesome. Zaid, please plug yourself, show the people what they need to see.
Thank you so much. Firstly, Cole, my first time meeting you, like, what a gentleman, man. What a gentleman. Must teach this other brother. My name is Zaid, and you'll find me pretty much everywhere under that name. And I talk about geek life. So collecting, sharing of experiences, acquiring collectibles, all of that stuff. That's my buzz. That's my vibe in this context. I just really, my mission right now is making geek life safe again. I think that there's so many people chasing clout. There's so many people that are sort of becoming, gatekeepers. My mission, my goal is to make you fall in love with your fandoms again. Like what Caleb's doing, he loves his fandom. I want you guys to be able to experience that as well. And I'm hoping you guys will share my links below.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much. And guys, come on the journey with me. We bring the thunder, we do the things. And this has been especially awesome just hanging out with you guys. I've learned so much, so thanks for the opportunity.
No, always, and you're always welcome back. I mean, I love what you're standing for, and what you say here is to bring back that, like, just sharing cool stuff with one another, not make it this weird competitive thing. Like, let's love movies, let's love creativity for the sake of creativity, and we stand for that together. I mean, guys, just from the Plot Armor side, please do go check out the Plot Armor Instagram and TikTok and whatever else. As you'll see listed below, Caleb will do the
Am I not allowed to say anything?
No, I'm speaking on your behalf. When don't you say something?
I would like to say something for this
You know what? I feel gracious. Caleb, say something.
Okay. I would just like to say that on that couch are two of my favorite people in the whole world. You'll get there. We're getting there. But I would not be the person I am today without those two. Zaid did such a crucial job of shaping me as a fan. For those of you that don't know, I've vlogged my interaction of meeting Zaid for the very first time ever, where he encouraged me to actually cosplay on stage for the first time. And we ran a podcast together a few years ago that we're trying to get up off the ground again. So Zaid, I love you, and I'm glad that we were able to do this. And obviously, you guys know how much I love this.
you've
say
told
it all
them
the time. But something that is just this makes me proud as a best friend is that we had the premiere for Vincent's short film yesterday, which was incredible.
At the Bioscope, which is really cool.
So yes, guys, check out the Bioscope and everything like that. But guys, you're all awesome, and I love you all. And
you don't get to say bye. I'm the host. No.
So thank you, Superman.
No, we'd also just like to take this opportunity to once again thank God, as we always try to keep him at the center of what we're doing here, and really love the fact that he's empowered us and enabled us to meet awesome people like the people here and the other people who's been on the episodes and who will still be on the episodes. And we'd love to thank Slayer for awesome drinks, keeping us fueled up for this episode. And I mean, that's that. We'll definitely see you on the next nerdy ass arguing show of this episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.